Testing. All right. Cool. All right. Hello. I'm going to get started right away because why not? All right. So today we're going to put the ad on the billboard and put a shirt on a logo. There's something I did want to show. Oh, yes. A couple things. Yeah, so the third was my mom's birthday, and I made her this little birthday card, I guess you could say. I give her a digital drawing for her birthday. She lives in a different state, so I can't really make her dinner or anything like that. So, this is what her glasses look like, and this is her, and this is me as a baby. So, she's my mama otter, and I'm the baby otter. Okay, and this is done in Illustrator. I applied the texturizer filter on it. I think it looks fine. But after looking at it for a while, I decided that I should just make my own textures from now on. I'm not sure how to do that yet, so that's something I'm trying to figure out this week. Another thing I did was make some fan art of this game called The Adventures of Flat. Let me pull it up, actually. No, it's called Flat Kingdom Game. And I think it's better on Edge. Okay. I don't know how many of you play indie games, but if y'all got the itch racial justice bundle, then you have this game. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I feel bad for you. It was about 1,700 games for $5. A lot of them really tiny games, but I got one in there. Yeah, so I made basically fan art of this game, of this character Flat. It's a really cool game in concept, but it's extremely flawed, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But yeah, it has cool ideas where you're Flat, you can be a circle, which is standard movement. You can turn into a triangle, which makes you go fast, and then a square, which they don't show here, where you can stomp. And it's a really cool game, but again, there's a lot of design decisions that didn't go well. But yeah, I ended up making this fan art because I love the character. He's really cute. And instead of a circle, triangle, or square, I made him a heart because I love him. So even though I don't like the game that much, I still love the character. So I decided to make some fan art. And this was a really important image for me because this was a point where it was the first time I really had fun with Illustrator, because I've talked about this, how I've struggled with using Illustrator, even though I've been using it and teaching it for years. Yeah, this was the first image where I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew how to get like the shading and the drop shadows and how to integrate things together, where I felt really good about what I did. And now I'm really, really excited to use Illustrator from now on, more or less. So yeah, that was a really important development for me. Another thing I want to show is that I just thought about right now is called Hero Forge. All right, so what this is, it's a site where you can build your own 3D or custom miniatures for board games, D&D sessions, what have you. And I'm not going to use it for that. What I'm going to use it for is references for making characters. Okay, so like yeah, you can make like a wolfie, a minotaur. I made a minotaur last night, and change like the clothing and stuff. And it automatically does this for you. It's really cool because you can get all sorts of reference shots. There's only a couple caveats to this. So you can make this in your browser, no downloads necessary. But what you can also do is you can buy either the plastic model. So if it's a regular character, like if you want them plastic, it'll be $20. And yeah, 30mm scale. Okay. And you could do different materials like bronze is $100, whatever. But not only that, but you can do downloads for the 3D models for printing or just using inside. For example, what is it called? Like if you use Tabletop Simulator, you'll want to download the tabletop download. So you could do really cool stuff like that. And another thing that's kind of cool is that I'm going to be really cheap about is you can do a pro subscription, which I think is $10 a month. I'm not sure. But you can also just get portraits done. But also you can just be kind of cheap like me and just take screenshots like this. You can do different poses and stuff. So yeah, I would say this is a really good reference if you have an OC. The only downside is every time you open a new window in it, it resets everything, so you'll have to build your character over and over again. So make sure you get good shots after you build it. Like do different poses, whatever. But yeah, I was playing around with this for an hour last night, and it's incredible what you can do. It's limited, but yeah, this is if you're going to be doing OCs and stuff, that's a really good source to do that. All right, so now onto the actual content of the class. So I'm going to do a billboard. All right, so I will show, the image I got. That's the image. I took several shots just in case. I was a little bit far from that. A close-up shot. And then 2 other shots. I like this one because it's less distorted. Or maybe it is a little... Pardon me. It is more distorted, which is fine. Well, also the lighting's a little bit better. This is a little bit more blown out than I'd like. And yeah, I like this better. So I took multiple shots of the billboard, which is a few blocks from my apartment, so I could do this assignment. So I'm just going to open this up with Photoshop. All right. So now, at this point, I'm just going to assume that people aren't like, if there's anyone here live that they're not necessarily going to follow live, but so if you're part of my class, I have a link to how to make a billboard ad in Canvas. And if you're not in my class, just let me know and I could DM you. But I'll be referencing this off screen. Okay, so here's the ad itself the picture of the billboard itself, and this is the ad that I created last class. Again, this is just a simple commission sheet that I'm not actually going to do. It's just an example for this class. Okay. So the first image, or the first step we'll want to do after we open this up, is that we'll paste your ad on top of the billboard and then make the ad layer invisible. So I'll put it here. I'll make it this size so it covers the billboard. I'll hit enter. Okay, and then I have to make it invisible. So that means I'll turn this visibility layer off. And one thing that's really cool is it's automatically a smart object. So it's in this little icon within the thumbnail. That indicates it's a smart object, which means we can make it small and then expand it to its original size, and it won't lose any detail from making it small. So it's a really handy thing, but you'll notice that sometimes when you're trying to play with things and it says, do you want to rasterize this? And if you say yes, that means it'll lose resolution if you make it small. And then big again. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select the photo layer, which is the background layer. What I always like to do personally is duplicate the background layer just in case. I'm going to do Control J on my Windows or Command J on Mac. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the photo layer and then make a selection for the original billboard ad. So I'm going to name this layer photo because it says photo layer. All right. So we're going to make a selection for the ad in the billboard that we're going to replace. So I'm zooming in with Control plus. There's a few different ways we could select. So my first instinct would be to use the quick selection tool and see how that goes, because it's the quickest way, but also there could be problems in accuracy. So yeah, it looks pretty good. And you know what? I actually did a really good job, surprisingly. Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Okay, so there's some flaws here. All right. So that's one option, but I want to show you other ways to do it. Another thing we can do is when we have something that has 90 not 90 degree angles, straight angles. What we can do is, believe it or not, use the pen tool. So we're going to click here for the pen tool. And it works just like Illustrator. We'll go from one corner. We'll go down to the next. And then go to the right. By the way, I'm holding down space and then clicking and dragging to move the view like I am doing. Okay. And then I'll click right here. I'll move up and click this last corner. And then I'll close it out here. All right, so now we have a select, or we made a path along the corners and edges of this. So in order to make this a selection, we just click here, selection. And then this asks us if we want anti-alias. Sure, that's fine. Feather radius, we're going to say no. Actually, let's go 0.5 pixels. What that does is it sort of blurs it a little bit. Let's just make that 1 pixel. And what that does is it makes it blurry a little bit. You know what? Let's stick with 0 for now because we can edit this later. And I'll show you in a moment. So I'm going to keep it like this. So yeah, here we go. That's our selection. I don't know. Okay, so I guess you have to have a selection tool to get this selected mask. I'm pretty sure it's the same in the version y'all are doing. So we're going to click that. And this automatically provides a red over what's not selected. Generally, we can use different options of onion skin, which you can't really see much. Marching ants, which is usually default. I'm going to look at the overlay because that seems to be a good way of defining the edges. And then you can change the color and stuff. So that looks like a little bit off. So maybe, you know what? That's actually fine. Yeah, because this is just a shadow. So I think this will be fine. And yeah, and this ad you can see is has some, what is it called? Some folds. So it's not perfectly straight. So you know what? Our ad, I guess, will be perfectly straight. Although we can warp it if we want to. If we want to make it a little bit more realistic, but maybe we'll do that another day. I don't know. But yeah, I think this looks good. Let's see what it looks like with 1 point feathering. Okay. That didn't change much. So this is what happens if you put it high. But yeah, we'll go with 0.5 actually. I can't really tell the difference, but I think that'll be good for softening it up a little. All right, so now we have our billboard selected, and we're on the photo layer right now. Okay, so this is something that it took me a long time to understand. So what we can do, which isn't immediately obvious, is that we can, we're moving the selection to a different layer. So again, the selection we have is on the photo layer because that's what we have selected. Okay, but if you click on the add layer, and then whether you make this visible or not, whatever layer you have selected, that's where the selection is now. The selection is not on the photo layer anymore. It's on the add layer. So I'm going to make this visible. All right. Okay, so as you can see, our selection is on top of our add layer, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer mask. So we're taking the selection from the billboard and we want to have that same exact selection shape for this. So we're going to make, again, you have to make sure you have the selection on the add layer. You're going to click this add layer mask button. And this is what happens. Okay, so this is great because what we have now is we have this layer mask that doesn't show anything from the layer outside of the the billboard selection that we made, right? So this, now that the billboard, the ad in the billboard, the real estate ad, has now become a window of sorts. It's actually the opposite of that, but that's the easiest way to think about it. So yeah, but obviously this is not perfectly aligned. So how do we fix that? So you can do this, but the layer mask is moving with the layer, and that's not what we want. Okay, so how do we adjust our own advertisement to fit this? So the first thing we need to do is unlink the the regular thumbnail with the layer mask thumbnail. So again, the regular thumbnail is what we can the actual information that we painted or pasted on. and the layer mask thumbnail, the white is what's visible and the black is what's not visible. Okay, so our goal right now is to keep this layer mask thumbnail the same, because we still want only this part to be visible and the outside of that to be invisible. But we want to be able to move the shape of our advertisement to fit within this window. Okay, so again, in order to do that, we have to unlink. So in order to unlink, there's this chain button, link icon rather. We'll click that, and we're good. So so now we have our layer mask thumbnail selected. If we move this around, you'll see that the layer mask moves around with it, and the advertisement that we have stays still. But that's the exact opposite of what we'll do. So I'll press escape to let that go. You'll want to select your regular thumbnail. So I'll do Control T to free transform, and now you can move it around, and so the window is still maintained like that. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure the perspective is correct as well as the size. So you might think like, okay, like, so I do this and I can rotate like this. That's actually not how you want to do it. It's very, very simple. A lot simpler than I thought it would be at first. Okay, so what we're going to do is press Control T to free transform, or Command T if you're on Mac. And we're going to hold Control or Command on Windows, I think. I'm not sure. Sorry. I think it's Command. I'm going to hold that, click the top left anchor point in this bounding box, and drag it to the corner on the corresponding top left here. Okay, so that obviously looks very wonky. The next step is we'll do the same thing. We're going to change the perspective by holding Control and dragging the bottom left corner to the bottom left corner here. And you can see, okay, this is already taking shape of this. Then we'll go on to the top right, hold down Command and click and drag. Move that to the top right. And then the same thing with the bottom right. Control and click and drag. And there you go. I'm going to zoom in to make sure it's set correctly to my standards, which are very, very high. Okay, that looks good. And it's okay that some of it's covered, because that's how it would appear in the billboard in real life. I'm trying to move my mouse down a smidge. All right, there we go. And yeah, that looks good to me. So here's our billboard. Yeah. All right, so that's how we fit the billboard within this. However, let's say we want to get the lighting a little bit better. The reason we might want to do this is because, it's flat, and let me open this up. Like, compared to the billboard, this is a little bit too bright. It's basically lit as if it's perfectly lit, as you see on the computer. Whereas, oopsie daisies. Whereas in this photo, you can see that the what am I trying to say? What am I trying to say? the it's a little bit gray because it's overcast. So this is for personal technical sake. This is the perfect time to take a photo of something outside, um, because overcast days provide very even lighting, which happens because the clouds diffuse the light coming through. So instead of being direct, it scatters the light all over, and it usually hits, makes shadows a lot less pronounced. And which is why on cloudy days you don't see very strong shadows, and on sunny days you do. So this is really good for taking a image of a billboard. But for a class exercise like this, I didn't think about it, but I probably should have gotten an image when it was sunny. But I'm going to show you how to deal with that anyways. All right, so again, here we go. So a simple way to do this, there's a lot of different ways you can do this, and I'll show you a couple. So I'll show the most fun way first, and we'll go to filter, render, and lighting effects. And remember, let me actually cancel this. You should have your regular thumbnail for the add layer selected. Do not have this selected because that won't do what you want it to do. So again, we'll go to, and before I just want to say the reason I'm zoomed out here instead of zoomed in to here is so we could see the context of the surroundings of the lighting. So again, we're going to go to filter, render, and lighting effects. Okay, so we have basically fake lights here. So this looks like if it would be nighttime. We have presets here of like 2 o'clock spotlight, floodlight. Okay. 5 lights down. Oops. And you could adjust these individually. Yeah, and there's a bunch of different things you can do. So we'll go to default. We'll move this around. And we can change it between point light. Oops. I didn't mean to up the intensity. Point light. Which is obviously a point. Spotlight, which is a more directional light. And then infinite, which means like basically an overcast day. I guess this is what we'd want. Make it a little bit darker. Okay. So we could change the color. A good way we can do this is instead of white, what we can do is find white in our original image, and that will change the color balance. So right here is some white. It's very tiny. Okay, so that brings us a little bit of gray. And then we can change the intensity to what we like. Yeah, and that looks a little bit better. Okay, that looks a little bit more realistic, but we could also colorize it. I could change this around. Exposure, we could fool around with that. Could change the gloss amount, which won't have a huge effect since it's pretty flat. Same with metallic, and ambiance is different. It'll definitely change it. All right. And you can put the texture refers to the different color channels. You really don't want to deal with that. So we'll just hit OK. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good, in my opinion. There's a here's another. You know what? Actually, that is the best way to do it. I was gonna show you another way that involved another layer and stuff, but let's just say, for practice sake, that we want to make this a little bit warmer, because let's just pretend there's an invisible glow, or there's an invisible light on this. So we'll want to go to color balance, and then we can move it from cyan to red. Okay, so that makes the whole scene kind of red. So in order to get rid of that and just keep it to here, what we can do is right click on color balance and create clipping mask, and so it only affects this. Okay, so if we want it to be a little cooler, we can move it to cyan and up the blue. Usually want to leave the magenta and green alone if you're using the blues, but sometimes it can help. But yeah, I think that might be a little bit too blue, actually. Yeah, this has a little bit more coolness than it originally did. So, yeah, let me uncheck that. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better because it matches the coolness of the scene, because we only have this grayness, pretty white light. It's not a warm sunny light. So yeah, those are ways we can make it look a little bit more realistic. There's other things that might come up but those are very specific things, like such as shadows. That's kind of hard to talk about generally. So if you have individual questions on that, please let me know, because that's kind of a fun thing for me to figure out. All right, so here's my billboard ad. I like it as it is, so I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And this is what I'm going to post to Discord. And this is my billboard ad folder. Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions with that, I'm definitely, obviously, more than happy to help. It is my job after all. Okay, so while this is saving, I'm going to go to the logo on the t-shirt page. Okay, so this has a lot of directions, but I want to show you how to navigate this. So for putting the logo on the t-shirt, we're going to use the displacement maps first. Okay, so we're going to use displacement maps. I tested this before class, and this works very well. But let's say if displacement maps doesn't work to your liking, you can also use liquify. And if that doesn't work, you could also use puppet warp. Right here it says if there are folds that make the displacement map not work well, you can try this. If the liquify doesn't work well, you can use this. But either way, we're going to end up going down to lighting. So it's easy to use this. This is more of a mechanical thing that doesn't take a lot of skill necessarily, just some knowledge. And something that I definitely had to learn that I didn't know about. I'm not going to save changes to the document. Actually, I will. Billboard, just in case. Yeah, it's always better to just save something rather than not. Okay, so I already have this as a preview. So I took a photo today. What you need to do for this logo on the t-shirt assignment is you need to find someone wearing a white t-shirt. You can get it online, but it's a lot better, more personal if you take a photo yourself. So I'm actually someone who draws, or who used to draw a lot on white shirts with Sharpie, and I had a bunch that I haven't used yet. So I thought it'd be perfect for this because A, I'm going to put a logo on the shirt, and B, it has these folds on it, which will help with it. Also, my arms are awkward and stiff like that because I'm pulling the shirt to make sure there's a good amount of folds there. So two things that are important to make this work and to make sure you know how to do this well is number one, this is a lot easier to do if it's a plain white t-shirt. Okay, or if you're putting the logo in a place that is blank on the white t-shirt. Other color t-shirts are a lot more difficult. Black t-shirts, I could probably figure it out how to do it, but that is a pain in the butt. So white t-shirts are the best. And number two, you want to make sure you have folds in your t-shirt. Don't stretch it out so that it's like perfectly straight. Otherwise, there's no point in me showing you this. Okay, so here's the white t-shirt with my really awkward pose. I didn't want to put my face in it because I want to focus on the t-shirt. It has nothing to do with my very scraggly beard that's too long and weird. Actually, it doesn't. I didn't think about that. So we have this image in Photoshop. Again, I'm always going to do Control J to change this background layer into this layer. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is actually create an additional Photoshop file, okay, from what we already have. So the first step is we open up this image. The second step is we add an adjustment layer, which is this little icon down here. It's a half filled in circle in the layers panel. And then we're going to go hue saturation, click here, and change the saturation to 0. Could you have gone to image adjustments, hue saturation? Yes, but I think it's important to do the smart layers like that because I want you to get used to using non-destructive workflow, meaning we can just turn this layer on and off, whereas if we turn off the saturation, we do 100 steps, we won't be able to undo the black and white to regular color because Photoshop can only undo so many times and hold so many steps in the history. So it's always a good idea to make adjustments with adjustment layers. Okay, so now we're going to do create new adjustment layer again, but this time we're going to do panel or levels. All right. I prefer levels over brightness contrast because it seems to be a bit more helpful. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the levels so that there's decent contrast between the shadows and highlights. So we don't want to have muddy grays. As long as the shirt looks good, as long as there's like some like what I have here is good. There's some highlights here. Let me actually click here, hold Alt. Okay, and this says where things go to pure white. So on this very right hand slider, I'm going to hold Alt or maybe Command on your Mac. I'm going to move this until, so it's usually all the way to the right. I'm going to move it until we barely see anything at all. Okay, and that's fine. Let's see. That's like this little point right here. That's the only place where it's pure white. And it depends on what photographer you ask. Like, should you have pure white? Should you not? That's one reason I got tired of photography, is there's too many people complaining about that. And on the left-hand side, this slider shows where the pure blacks are. Okay, and yeah, that doesn't matter too much. We're not too worried about that. So that looks fine. So the takeaway here is I want to make sure the place where you're putting your logo, I'll put mine right here. is that there's highlights, which is the lighter part of the shirt, and darker parts. Okay, it doesn't have to be as dark as this, but something like this is pretty good. All right. So now what we're going to do is filter. Okay, you want to, sorry, before that, you want to make sure you have your layer 1 selected again. Okay, so now what we're going to do is filter, blur, then Gaussian blur. And so we're going to change the radius here. That slightly smooths out textures, but as long as the shadows and highlights remain, you're good. So you don't want to do anything like this. You want to start here and just slightly blur them out. And so I got this from a tutorial online, and what I think this does is it does a little bit of smoothing out and makes the logo that you're going to displace makes the transition a little bit smoother. So again, you want it to be a little bit blurry, and also it sort of gets rid of like the pure texture of the material. So if you have a really bumpy material, that'll change things a lot. So I have a pretty smooth shirt. So yeah, we're just smoothing that out a little. 2.1 works for me. Okay, so then we're going to go File, Save As, and we're going to name this Displacement Map. I'm just going to replace my old file because this is what I did yesterday. So I'm calling it displacementmap.psd. You want to make sure this is a PSD. Oops, on my directions I say save to desktop. I'm just going to save it in my shirt logo folder. So I'm going to save. Yeah, I'm going to replace it and maximize compatibility. That's all right. All right, and then file, close, or yeah, close. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up this original photo. So I'm just going to do it the hard way. I lost my train of thought. What am I doing? Oh yeah, shirt logo. I'm going to move this and bring it into Photoshop. All right, so then we have this image again. It's the same exact image, but we're not going to make a displacement map this time. Okay, so we're going to rename this layer shirt, but instead of that, again, I'm going to make a copy with Control J. I'm going to rename this, I'm going to rename layer 1 to shirt. Okay. All right, so our next step is to add our logo onto the shirt. So it's best if your logo has a transparency. Depending on what you want to do, I'm actually gonna make a shirt with my logo, but I'm gonna make it black and white. But for the presentation's sake, I'm gonna move this color logo onto here. I'm gonna make it smaller, and I'm gonna make it pretty big, which isn't very good design wise, in my opinion. But well, yeah, this is a pretty bad place to put the logo, but it'll make sense because it'll display the technical part of this exercise. All right, so I'm gonna make this invisible just to show you there's a bunch of folds here. Okay, so I have my logo where I want it, and it's already smart object, and so I have a step that says convert to smart object if it isn't already. Remember, it's this little icon right here. We'll go to free transform mode, rotate the logo, whatever, to make it more natural. So I think I'm going to move this a little bit up like this. Oh, whoops. I meant to do control, not alt. So I'm holding down control, putting a tiny bit of perspective like that. Tiny bit like this. Yeah, it's already fine. So, but I just want to show you, you should do that. Okay, like, so if you're rotating a different way, for example, I'm not going to do this one, but if you're rotating, if it's like this, going to make it the size I want to. And obviously, we need to put some perspective on it. So I'm going to do Command T again, put some oh, jeez. It's Control, not Alt, Daniel. I know. So we're going to put some perspective on this. Or should I do this? And then make it a little bit bigger over here. Yeah, and that looks a little bit better. I'm not going to spend too much time getting exact, so I just want to give you the gist of that. All right, so we have that going on. All right, so now what we're going to do is go to Filter. Oops. Distort. And Displace. We're going to keep it like this. We'll hit OK. And then we'll navigate to our displacement map.psd that we just made. Mine was in shirt logo. We'll click that and hit open. And then you see this happens. Okay, so what just happened is it took the information from our displacement map PSD file and applied it here based on shadows and highlights. Okay, so yeah, this just looks kind of weird and goofy, right? Okay, so it's not going to look good right now because we don't have any shadows or highlights on it. Okay. So my advice to you is skip down to the lighting. I think that might help most of the time. It depends. So, but if just doing the lighting doesn't work, you'll want to go back to the other steps, which I'll show. Okay. So, all right. So on the logo layer, we're in the lighting section on the bottom if you're on the logo on a t-shirt page. So on the logo layer, change the blending mode, which is right here, to multiply. All right. And change opacity to 90%. Okay, as you can see, that already makes a lot more sense than when it was on normal, right? Because that just looks like it's messed up and distorted a little. But when you put it in multiply, this is where you'll see the lighting come into play. However, it's not perfect yet. I remember struggling with this last year, and I think I accidentally took did too good for this because I don't remember it looking as good when I did it last year. But yeah, it looks decent, but it could be a lot better, or relatively better. Okay. So now what we're going to do is create a copy of the shirt layer, this one down here, and we'll press Command J or Control J if you're on Windows, and this will be called shirt copy. We'll move this on top of the logo layer. Okay. Got it. So we have the shirt copy, the color logo with the display smart filter, and then another logo of the shirt. Okay, so using a layer mask on the shirt copy layer, make only the shirt visible. So what that means is basically select the shirt, make sure the layer thumb mask is selected, then edit fill black. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick selection on, oops. So I'm going to make a selection here. If you have a tablet, doing selections is a lot easier. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I'm going to undo this. I'd say, this is more than This is good enough. We don't need to be super nitpicky about this right now. All right, so we have this selected. And then we're going to make a layer mask. But what we have here is the opposite of what we want. So I'm going to do Control I with this layer mask thumbnail selected. So we want the shirt to be black. So no. Actually, this is. Hold on. Make only the shirt visible. Okay. No. So this is exactly what we want. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So the white shirt should be a white shirt in the layer mask thumbnail. Okay. I need to rewrite that in the directions. Okay. And then we'll change the shirt copy layers blending mode to multiply. Okay. And that makes it darker. And then what we'll do is we'll change the opacity to make it look better. All right, so that's a little better. All right, so when we don't have that, what this does is it makes the shadows look better. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another layer to this. So we're gonna add the highlights. So now instead of everything being a little bit darker, we're going to keep the dark things dark and make the lighter things lighter. So it matches the lighting better. Okay. So create a copy of the original shirt layer. Control J or Command J on Mac. We're going to move this shirt copy to layer to the top again, and everything will disappear under that. I wonder if you could do this. Right click this. No, that just moves it. Nope. All right, so what I did is I held Alt and dragged it to up here, and that copied the layer mask to this layer, which I just found about right now for the first time in my life. And that's just because experience and intuition and just seeing what's possible. All right. So now we have this shirt copy 2 layer with this layer mask already here. You're going to change this blending mode to screen instead of multiply. Okay. So now it's like super light. It's way too light, right? So now what we'll do is we'll press Command L to bring up the levels panel, or Control L, and move the dark gray slider, this one, to the right until it makes until it looks decent. So yeah, like around there looks good. So now we have the highlights and the shadows. I was gonna say low lights. You can also make it a little bit too light as well, and then change the opacity. So there we go. Like that, to me, that looks really good. I don't know about y'all, but I did a fine job. Because let's get rid of all these, and then let's put it back on. Yeah, that looks pretty realistic, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's an easy way to do it without having to fuss about individual things and worrying about all these really bizarre techniques. Okay, but I am going to use a bizarre technique. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all this, or just because I want to actually, I'm going to save it right now. so I can post it as it is. PNG. Shirt logo. And save that. Let me just make sure it's all good. It's still saving. Still saving. Excuse me? What's taking so long? Yep, still saving. I'm being an impatient baby. Alright, here we go. Alright, so that's intact. Oh, that's so cute. If I may say so myself. Alright, so again, I'm going to unvisible this. Put my... I'm going to do this one because it'll... Oh, the white is still intact. I'm gonna just do grayscale this time. All right, so la-di-da. Enter, zoom in. I'm gonna put a little bit of perspective on here. Okay, so I'm gonna use the liquify, which again isn't super great if you can help it, but it might be able to help you out a little bit. So I'll show you anyway. So we can go to filter, liquify. All right. Okay, so I want to show backdrop. Yes. Okay. And so we have, oops. You, and choose this to, sure. Background. Okay, so this is what we want to. What am I doing? Interesting. I want to show the backdrop. Show backdrop. Use shirt. Okay, so I guess obviously I'm just figuring out. So we want to show the backdrop, use the shirt we want to have in the background, and use mode behind. So the shirt is behind. All right, whatever. Okay, so we have liquify, which could do funny things like this, and there's different kinds. Reconstruct tool is basically undo it. Let's do this again. Then smooth tool, which I've actually never used before. I guess what it does is it smooths things out. So let's undo that. Yeah, this top one's a forward warp tool. It's basically like pushing a liquid. We can always undo that. That looks so cool. All right, so we also have twirl clockwise, undo, pucker tool, which I find to be useful sometimes. Bloat after a big meal. Push left. That looks like right. And okay, so freeze mask tool is really cool. So let's say we want to keep this nose intact, but we want to mess with everything else. Whatever's frozen that we spray paint with red, it'll remain like that. And thaw is the opposite. It'll erase that. Okay. And then, oh jeez, let's just reconstruct. And then thaw this all. Reconstruct, please. There we go. I don't know what face tool is. All right, that's fine. Okay, so those are options that we have. So I guess what we'd be using, I really don't like this technique, to be honest, is like basically finding where the folds are and moving things along like this. So you can see like it does seem like it will do something. Like it goes along the curve like that. But it'll take a lot of time to do like every curve, right? And so let's say if these things I'm doing are a little bit extreme, we can change the density of it. So, well, like for example, when we move things, it's a little bit less, I think. Oh no, sorry, we want to change the pressure. So there we go. If you want to make it more subtle. So that's one option. I would say obviously try the displacement map tool first and use this if there's some things that it didn't get right. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel. So you get the idea of that. And then we're also going to try Puppet Warp, which is either really amazing or awful depending on who you are, because I just don't really have a good time with it, but some people absolutely love it. So Puppet Warp is edit Puppet Warp, and it brings up this web. So what this is, it's a mesh, and what we can do is edit it. So if we can move it around, sure, but that's not what we're concerned about. So our cursor turns into a push pin with a plus icon. So let's see what that does. We'll put one in the middle right here. Okay, and then we'll move this around so you can see. Oh, so I accidentally put two. So you can see like the push pins I put moves things around that axis. So we'll put some around the place, and you can see that they're basically anchor points, and it squishes. It kind of makes this into a squishy texture. So this one's a little bit harder to use with this. I'm honestly wouldn't recommend it. But it's something that's fun to play around with, and it might work for you depending on the shape of what you have. I kind of avoid this tool as much as I can, so I don't have really great advice for you if you use this. I would definitely look up tutorials if you want, but this is just another option to move things around. But I haven't figured out how to do this very well when applied to the shirt assignment. Okay, so I think that's about all I'm going to show today. Yeah, so I'll just exit Photoshop. So I think what I'll do for um, so that's all the demos I have for this um, period of assignments. So I don't have anything new for Wednesday to show. So what I'm gonna do is, where is it? Where is it? Oh, so here's a Minotaur reference that I did from Hero Forge. I don't like it at all. I'm just gonna use other references. So I basically just took reference images to see how it would look, and yeah, I didn't like the options they had. So I'm just gonna use other references. But anyways, class files. Oh, DVD case. So I'm gonna try to finish this up as a chill stream on Wednesday. So yeah, so for Wednesday, if you wanna show up, I'll just be doing that. If you want to use that to motivate you to do this, you could remember you could do the logo. Let me double check. I don't want to misspeak. So for this assignment, you can either do the DVD case that I'm going to be um, finishing on Wednesday, or you can do the t-shirt ad and billboard, which I've completed. And the other option is your choice for what you want to do. So yeah, again, that's about it. Thanks for watching. If you happen to be listening right now, um, put a snail emoji as a reaction to this. I'm just curious to see if people watch this. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but it doesn't matter if you do or don't. I'm just curious. So again, thanks y'all. Toodles.